So what am I going to need to start making soap? This is a question that we hear a lot, but it's a question that allows people to hide the question that they're really wanting to know, which is, how much is this going to cost me? When you're starting soap making for the first time, there are going to be things that you're going to need to purchase, and there is going to be cost. But let's talk about all of these so that you can know that you're purchasing the correct things and not wasting money on things that maybe you'll need and maybe you won't. Let's get your money focused at the right things so you've got what you need and you're ready to start soaping. So let's dive in. First, the question, what am I going to need and how much is this going to cost? Everyone is aware on some level that soap making can be a slippery slope of things, of endless possibilities of things that you could purchase to support this new hobby, and that could actually cost a fair amount. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can actually start fairly simply. So let's go through, first of all, what are the supplies that you will need to do your soap making? First, you're going to need a couple of these like Pyrex or anchor hocking glass bowls. One of these you're going to use for mixing your lye and your liquid, and the other one you're going to use for measuring your oils. Then eventually you'll pour them together. These are great for this. They're very sturdy, they're heat safe, and that doesn't matter because what we're doing is not going to be that hot, but it's a measurement of the quality. We want to make sure that you're working in a container that's going to be able to take a little bit of abuse and going to be able to handle the fact that there's a chemical reaction going on in here and it's not going to be a problem. So I have two of these that I use. I love the fact that they're sturdy. I also like that they have a pour spout and a handle. It just allows me to have a good grip on the bowl to make sure that as I'm pouring, nothing's going to slip or fall, or I'm going to, lose control of it in some way. The utensils that you use, if you are going to use a metal utensil, it has to be stainless steel. You cannot use anything aluminum in your soap making. Aluminum reacts with the lye, and that's just going to mess up the reaction, and you just don't want that in your kitchen. So make sure that anything you use as far as the utensil goes is stainless steel. I bought these because they say stainless steel right on the back, and I wanted to make sure they were. I just wasn't sure what the rest of the things I had were. So make sure you've got stainless steel utensils. Same thing applies for your stick blender, but you're probably pretty safe here. We're going to use this for blending the soap batter together, and you want to make sure that your shaft is stainless steel, but you're probably pretty safe with whatever you have if you already own one, because I haven't seen any shafts that aren't stainless steel. So probably you're okay. If you need to go purchase a stick blender, I have found that I prefer ones that are a little lesser powered, a little lesser quality. So I would say, from the, $20 to $35 range, that's probably where you want to be. Anything more expensive than that is just too high powered, and it tends to run air bubbles all through the soap batter, and you actually want to avoid that. I also like this one a bunch because it has a fluted end on it there, and that means that we can be using it to blend, but it doesn't stick down to the bottom of the bowl. So that means that we can use it, and it's not suctioning down to the bottom of the bowl, and then when you try to pull it up, it introduces the idea that you could splash stuff on you, and that's a safety issue then. So that's what I like as far as the stick blenders go. Your spatula, you want to make sure that this is a heat safe spatula. Again, not that what we're doing is going to be so hot, but it's just a measurement of the quality. I have other spatulas that are just cheap ones I got from somewhere that are, royal blue. And I would be afraid that the finish on the spatulas would deteriorate if I was using them in the soap batter. And I just you don't want like that, deteriorating and getting in your soap batter. And now this lovely soap batter that's going to make this great soap has, plastic junk running around in it. So make sure you've got a spatula that's heat safe so that that doesn't happen. Your scale. You're going to need a digital scale that reads to the 10th of an ounce. That's the level of, just to make sure you've got a level of accuracy there. We need to be, remember, we need to be very accurate when we're measuring the oils and when we're measuring the lye and the liquid. But also you want to make sure that your scale is physically big enough so that when you put a bowl on it and you're going to weigh things into the bowl, that you can still see the display. So make sure it's a big enough scale that it can handle that to allow you to see, and you're not trying to look through the glass to read the read the display. Make sure it's big enough that you can see it around your bowl. Then you're also going to need a digital thermometer. This is not anything special. I picked this up at Walmart, but just make sure it's a digital read thermometer so that you can, you can just read it very carefully. It's very accurate. A dial thermometer, there's just too much interpretation there in like what degree we're at. So make sure it's a digital thermometer so you can get those temperatures accurately. Then you're also going to need something to mold the soap in. Now, you've probably seen a number of things used as a mold. There are silicone options, there are, plastic options, there's all kinds of things you could use as a soap mold, but it can be very simple. You could use a paper quart container to mold your first batches of soap. And then when you're done, when the soap is hard, you can rip the container away from the soap and cut these fun little square bars of soap. So it can be as simple as that. Now, the place where you can double dip a little bit is if you purchase your goat milk, if you're making goat milk soap. If you purchase your goat milk in this container, now you have the milk for your soaping recipe and you have the container for the mold, and you've gotten a 2-for-1 in that deal. So these things now that we've talked about, the bowl, the spoon, the stick blender, the spatula, all here, let me sort them out here. These things now, the spoon, the spatula, the stick blender, and the bowl, all need to be reserved for soap making only, once you use them for soap making. With any of these, but especially with the stick blender, you would not want to mix soap batter and have something that's containing lye in this and then switch over to using it to prepare food, in the next day. Especially under that blade, there could be lye, there could be soap batter there, because that blade doesn't come out and we can't see under it. You would not want to use this and have the possibility that you would contaminate your food with lye or with soap batter. So once you've used your stick blender for soap making, it needs to be reserved only for soap making. What I would do with these things is to get a dish tub and a Sharpie and just write soap making on the side of the dish tub. Put all these utensils in that dish tub and put it on a shelf. Put it on top of the fridge. Put it somewhere where the rest of the people in your household will know these things are for soap making and they don't accidentally get used to scramble eggs tomorrow. And now you have soapy eggs that everyone's wondering why they're slightly, taste funny. So make sure those things are only used for soap making now. Your safety things that you need, because we are working with lye, we need to make sure that we have safety things to protect us from the caustic nature of the soap and of the lye, and then later the soap. Make sure you have a good pair of rubber gloves. Make sure you have eye protection. If it needs to fit over your glasses, keep that in mind. If you don't wear glasses, then you can get some goggles that are, look more like glasses and fit a little closer to your face. And also when you're pouring the lye, you're going to want to have a dust mask to make sure that you're not inhaling any of that lye dust. That's just not a good thing. So that's just for that one point. Also, you may want to have an apron. Making soap tends to be a little messy. And if you're wearing something that you care about, you might want to protect it. Just make sure you don't get, I don't know, oils or soap batter or whatever on clothing that you care about. So either wear something that you don't care about or protect yourself with an apron if you'd like to do that. Now, the ingredients that will be in your soaping project likely. The ones that we use most commonly are 3 oils, olive oil, coconut, and palm. And then we typically use goat milk. You can use distilled water and lye. Our olive oil, we like to get the yellow stuff. It's just not the extra virgin. It's not so green. This is a great oil for soaping because the green, if you bought extra virgin, tends to carry over into the soap and it makes your soap slightly green. And later on, when you start working with scent and colorant, it's nice to not have to fight that green. So if you purchase the yellow kind of olive oil, it's generally a little bit cheaper, but that also keeps you from having to fight that green later on. The coconut oil, it can be just normal coconut oil that you buy at the store. It does need to be a solid. Make sure a solid at room temperature. There is such a thing as fractionated coconut oil that is a liquid at room temperature. That's not the right thing. You can't use that for making soap. So make sure you've got coconut oil that is a solid at room temperature. The palm oil, typically you're going to have to order this online. I haven't seen this in any of the grocery stores near us, but Amazon is a great place to get that. Make sure it's palm oil and not palm kernel oil or palm kernel flakes or something else. Palm oil, and that's what you're looking for. It should look like Crisco. It should be a solid at room temperature. Then you know you've got the right thing. If you're making goat milk soap, purchasing your goat milk is actually not terribly complicated anymore. If you have goats or if you have access to fresh raw goat milk, that's absolutely my favorite thing to use in soap. I think it makes just a super lovely product. But if you need to purchase goat milk, this isn't goat milk, but you can usually find it in a quart kind of container in your grocery store. Around us, Walmart carries it. But you have to, in the dairy case, you have to look like way up and to the left. It's in one corner or the other, but they do have it and it's not that difficult to find. If you need to use powdered goat milk, you can do that as well. I don't like the product it makes as well. Liquid is absolutely my favorite. But if you need to do that, it's possible to purchase that in the store or get it on Amazon as well. If you're using distilled water, just grab a gallon of distilled water from the store when you're there. The lye, also not difficult to find. You can order this on Amazon. Make sure that you are getting 100% lye. If it's 99 or 98, that's fine, but make sure it's not like a liquid that's a drain cleaner that has lye in it. That's not the same thing at all. Make sure it's a powder. Make sure it looks like sugar, really, if you look at it. And then then you know you've got the right thing there. So the initial cautionary question of how much is this going to cost is correct. There really are endless opportunities for things you can buy to support your soap making hobby. But to begin with, it doesn't have to be that way. You can actually get started very simply with a lot of things you might already own in your home. Now, another thing to think about is as you're looking for a stick blender or a stainless steel spoon or a mixing bowl, going to local thrift stores or Goodwill is a great place to get some of these things very inexpensively. Make sure they're in good shape. Make sure the stick blender functions. Make sure if you're buying a stainless steel spoon from there, make sure you see it somewhere. Make sure it says it somewhere, but you might find one there too. And then that can help keep the cost very reasonable as you get started with your soap making. If you would like the checklist of all the things that we have talked about tonight, that list is in the comments below the video. Just click the link there to download that list and you can have the checklist so you can take it shopping and know that you've got all the right things. And yeah, that should just make that very handy for you. In our next video, we're going to talk specifically about the oils that we use in soap making, the ones that are the most common and why. Another question that we get very frequently is, can we swap oils? And there's actually some rules about that. We're going to go over those in the next video. So I'll see you there.